Coming in today, we have an MMA Tea Company industry insider. I am joined by Arias Garcia. Arias is the matchmaker for CFFC, that is Cage Fury Fighting Championships. They have some events coming up here in the middle of March. They'll be their next events. Arias, how has the matchmaking been going for these upcoming cards?
Actually, it's been pretty good. As you know, John, we're only one of a few companies in the country right now able to put on shows consistently. So my phone is always ringing, always texting. So it's been pretty good, pretty good. I don't have much competition out there, but we have a kind of process that we're looking for a certain kind of fighter for fight for us. So it's still a little bit difficult, but it's been a little bit easier.
Sure, and I think anybody who watches the CFFC card, right, knows that the caliber of fighter is pretty high, even from your next gen series of amateur fighters all the way up through your champions. Who a decent number of your champions are going on to either the UFC, the Bellators, the PFLs of the world, and a lot of people look to you, fighters, managers, what have you, as this is where we need to go to get to that next step. You talked about your kind of qualification process, but what are you really looking for in fighters as you're putting your cards together?
Well, we're looking for guys that we think are prospects and that we believe can make it to the next level. Whether that be the UFC, Bellator. But yeah, we want to see a guy that's a prospect that we believe either we hear through the gym or their managers that have seen all types of fighters that say, hey, Arias or Rob, this is the next one. This guy has the talent, the charisma to make it to the UFC. So, I put my trust in the camps that I have built a relationship with, and I build a trust in with the managers I have. And they kind of know what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a guy that's, 15-0, but a guy that maybe, 8-1, 5-1, that, that they've shown that they've faced some adversity and they can be a force, not only in the regional scene, but in the scene in the UFC. So we're just looking for prospects that we believe are either super ready for the UFC or on the cusp of being ready to go to the next level.
And that kind of comes through in the product that you put out there. But I got to ask, I'm sure you get a lot of people that are reaching out, managers, fighters themselves, that say, this guy's the next UFC middleweight champ. This guy's the next, UFC lightweight champ. And then you might go and watch their tape and think, he might not be ready for us. So, at what point are you, like making those determinations? Are you watching like a couple fights? Are you talking to other people in the industry? Where does it go from there?
I don't think I phone call another manager.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
I can't remember the last time I watched video on a fighter, unless they've sent me their highlight reel. But I really, really put trust in the people that I've built a network with. The gyms around here. The Nicatones, the Daniel Gracies, the Will Martinez's. Those guys locally. I don't have to check for a fighter if John from EFC tells me this dude's legit, which he told me about Zulkanar Kamchibekov years ago. I take people at their word, and there are some guys that I take chances on, some managers I've never dealt with, but I really don't look for fighter videos unless someone sends me a highlight reel. And again, that highlight reel might be a 20-second clip.
Sure.
Of a fight that was 15 minutes. But again, I have trust in so many people, so many managers, like Brian Hamper from Sucker Punch, Jeremy from Iridium, Dave Fish from Paradigm, and all those guys. I apologize if I'm leaving Matt Dodge Sports, Jeremy Rubin, Oren, all those guys. They've been around the business, and they know a good prospect when they see one. So I usually depend on their word, and their word is gold to me. And if they do send me a guy that, didn't perform as well as we thought, that stuff happens,
Sure. Yeah, and not everybody performs, at their best in each event. That's just kind of the fight game.
Correct.
And you've been in this game now, I know at least with CFFC for the past 10 years. I saw on social it was your 10-year anniversary with them. So you've had the time, right, to build those relationships, kind of see who's trustworthy, see who's not, and move forward. But I want to know, going back to when you first joined the company, how did you get into MMA? How did you start, talking to fighters and say, I can put these fights together and make them exciting fights?
Yeah, so like I've always I've always been a fan of the sport. My dad was a fan. I watched, when I watched UFC one live. I'm 42, so I watched UFC one live and just followed it. Been a fan ever since. Um, when I was in college, I wrote for a newspaper around here called the Courier Post, and
Mhm.
just a fan did a story on like I think it was called MFC. Miguel Arati was a promoter. He had fighters like, I'm talking about old school guys like Eve Edwards. He was bringing Eve Edwards to New Jersey, Eddie Alvarez, Joachim Hansen, Hermes Franca. Those are the names he was bringing to New Jersey, and no one knew who they were, but they were great fights. Miguel asked me to come along with him. Wrote for his website at the time was Abu Dhabi's website because he did the matchmaking for the Abu Dhabi submission tournaments. Did a couple for Sherdog, MMA Weekly, and was just primarily a writer, not taking it too seriously. Had a family, a little family at that time, and I got close with Felix Martinez, who was the original owner of Cage Fury. I actually judged the Kimbo versus Ray Mercer fight. Thank God it didn't go to a decision, but I was a judge for that. Me and Jim Genia, another writer, and Cage Fury went under. Um, Felix asked me to go to this meeting to talk to Rob Haydack, to talk to him about what his vision of the company was. I met with Rob at his restaurant at the time, and I gave him my presentation, and he liked it, and I liked his vision of what possibly Cage Fury could be, and he took a shot, and I've been matchmaking ever since. And like I tell this to people all the time, like Rob is like the smartest man in, I used to say regional MMA, but he's one of the smartest men in MMA, period. And he took me under his wing. I've learned so much from Rob, and throughout these 10 years, we bumped heads a little bit, but the one goal that we had was to make Cage Fury better. That's it. Like, when there's other companies and other MMA organizations that we're being compared to or whatever, we're never in competition with them. We're in competition with ourselves. How do we make CFFC 92 better than 91? How do we make, every time when I have a fighter, what could we have done better? But going back to, 10 years ago, like we've been through a lot. Like I've matched make now probably over 80 some shows, and my matchmaking back at CFFC 6 when I first started to CFFC 92 is just totally different. Back then, Cage Fury, I guess, and I understand, with the pay-per-view that fell apart, Rob and I had to seriously build some bridges to, get fighters to trust our brand again, and the CFFC name. And it took us a little bit, but, we got to where we're at. But it's been a hell of a ride. John, you've probably been following us a little bit on the
Mhm.
regional scene of some of the cards we've had and some of the caliber fighters. And listen, I respect any fighter that has fought for us throughout these last 10 years. But when I looked at CFFC 6, I was like, man, that was not a great card. But we were in our infancy,
Mhm.
our infancy, and we had to let people trust us. And out of that card we had, we had Jared Gordon's pro debut. He's currently in the UFC, and we have Nishan Burrell, who's made his venture in the Strike Force UFC, and he's still kicking in the regional scene. So I love it, man. I can't say nothing else about it. I love it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Yeah, and I think, you guys, from what I can tell from social, talking to you, talking to Rob a couple times, that you really do pride yourselves on being able to send those fighters to the next level. And you said something earlier, right? You want CFFC 89 to be better than 88, 90 to be better than 89. And then 2020 happens, right? So, you're putting on shows at a pretty fast pace, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, no live events. You can't do really anything with crowds. So what was the thought process like behind the scenes with CFFC of, what are we going to do to keep people active?
Right. So at that time, we still have a lot of fighters signed to multi-fight deals, and it was kind of, I'm not gonna lie, John, I love the time off of not watching fights. It was good. And like I said, man, Rob is one of the hardest workers. So he's working behind the scene with UFC Fight Pass, and he's telling me like, Eric, what do you think about a no crowd show? And I'm like, there's no way,
Mhm.
there's no way we can do it. And of course, he talks to UFC Fight Pass. They partnership with us. They understand where we're coming from with no fans, and he pulled it off. And he said, can I do it? And I said, yeah, let me talk to the managers, and the people I mentioned earlier. I reached out to them, reached out to their camps, and they said, yeah, let's do it. And I told them, like, if you don't want to fight during this time, no hard feelings. When we get back up to full capacity, and you can sell all the tickets you can sell, let's do it. But it was like the fighters were like, finally, like, we were waiting for you guys to do something. And doing it back to back was just a little bit of added stress. But knock on wood, so far it's been really awesome. And we've taken, as you mentioned earlier, like, we've taken all the safety precautions. We've only done it so far in PA and Mississippi. Due to COVID, I didn't go out to the Mississippi show, but you know how Greg Serb is, John,
Mhm. I do, yes.
and I love Greg Serb, and he gave us a guideline of what steps to follow. And it's just, these fights have been probably the most stressful, because not only do you have to worry about a fighter making weight, but you have to worry about the fighter testing positive for COVID. And the commission will only accept tests like about 4 or 5, 6 days or whatever from the weigh-in.
Mhm.
So one show we lost a couple of fights because of people testing positive, and it was like, oh, and then you got to go to the weigh-ins, and then someone's missing weight, and then they get an additional COVID test at the weigh-ins, and they get additional COVID tests fight night. So it's been really stressful. And because of COVID and the numbers, I haven't been to like the last 5 or 6 weigh-ins, and it's even more stressful because Rob's basically the only one there,
Mhm.
and I'm waiting for him to call me and say, "Hey, this guy's overweight. Can you call the manager, see if they'll accept this?" So it's been stressful, but the fights have been. I don't know if you've been tuning in, John, but
I have, yeah.
they've been absolutely amazing. Some really good fights. I mean, we just had our award show of the fans voting on who they thought was submission of the year, knockout of the year, and you know, we had I thought it was number one, but they gave us number two knockout, Johan Lioness versus Lenny Rafati. Love Lenny. Shout out to Lenny. Um, and I think one of our guys, Jose Perez, won submission of the year. So I think it's been great. We've been given fighters the exposure that they deserve, and we're able to put on fights during this time when people are dying and begging for fights. It's a shame, and I hope fighters don't take it personal. But there's some fighters that, unfortunately, I just can't go on because our priority goes to the people that have stuck with us and have signed with us.
Sure, and that makes sense. And you mentioned Greg Serb, right? And I know that there was probably some pushback, right, or some flack, or some whatever you want to call it, negative feedback that you guys might have gotten for, oh, I can't believe they're putting on shows in Pennsylvania. And anybody who knows Greg, right, knows that he's not going to let you put a show on if there's any doubt in what's going to happen in terms of safety for the fighters and everybody involved. So, in my opinion, right, Pennsylvania is probably one of the safest places to put shows on because of Greg.
Absolutely. And Greg and his team at the PA Commission have been nothing less than dynamite. I email Greg, talk to Greg all the time. He's a great ambassador to the sport.
Mhm.
I know he gets an unfair rap sometimes, but he's been nothing but great. And if he sees something wrong, he's on top of it.
Mhm.
And he's similar to what we had over in New Jersey with Nick Lembo.
Mhm.
Their first priority is fighter safety, and if they see something that doesn't look right, they'll bring it to our attention. So, yeah, you're right, John. It's probably one of the safest places to have a fight is in Pennsylvania, and we took all the precautions that we were advised by the state. And like I said, so far the fights have been great. The feedback from UFC Fight Pass have been great. And I'm just so super excited for the future.
And speaking of the future, you have two cards coming up here in March. I think it's the 11th and 12th. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So what can we look forward to for these two shows that are coming up for CFFC?
Yeah, I apologize. I had my computer up because I'm working on like two or four cards right now. But well, you saw so on March 11th, our main event. I'll talk about our main event and
Mhm.
co-main event, and we have Pumi Nakuda versus Alberto Trujillo. Alberto kind of shocked the world. His last fight when he stopped Santo Cortolo. I think Santo was either 4 or 5-0 at the time with 4 or 5, I believe, first round stoppages. So no one no one probably expected him and his head coach Eric Del Fiero thought that Alberto was going to win. Alberto won, and we kind of look at Fumi. He's only 2-0. He really super impressed me his last fight. He made his debut in Bellator. Comes from a great camp. Like so many people have told me about him for the last couple of months and just saying like, dude, he's legit. And when I say people, I say like, Ray Longo. I'm talking about Aljamain Sterling. I'm talking about Murab, and everyone praises this guy. And without hesitation, when we said, would you take Alberto? Without hesitation, he accepted it. And if you look, even though he's getting the title shot with 2-0, I mean, you look at the fighters that Dana's bringing on a contender
Mhm.
series, he could be a win or two away from being there. I've seen guys 4-0, 3-0, and I just think the world of him.
Mhm.
Now the other fight is kind of like our one is our 135 title, and it's Tyson Lin who choked out a very tough Phil Karakappa,
Mhm.
and I'm going to kill this guy's name, but it's Saeed Karamanov. I hope I'm saying that right, and I apologize. But he has a win. His own one of his last wins was against Oscar, who just got called up to UFC, but unfortunately had a medical issue and couldn't fight. And Oscar's only loss is Saeed knocked him out. So that'll be for our 135 title. And then on the March 12th, we have our Colin Huckbody is going to
Mhm.
defend his 185 title against Aaron Jeffrey. Aaron Jeffrey's a guy that we're bringing back. He fought for us years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. He took Sean Brady on,
Mhm.
and you know what kind of beast Sean Brady is.
Yep.
Fought him to a decision, and I think Aaron recently beat Andre Petrosky, I believe, in the main event in LFA. And Aaron jumped at the opportunity. His manager was texting me while the Colin fight was going on, just saying, "Hey, we want the winner." So, and Colin took it, really fast, no issue. And then we're bringing back my good buddy Jamel Jones. He's going to be fighting for the heavyweight title against Cody Gooddale. Good record, 7-4. And again, he's another fighter that we think, with a victory here, could land in a contender series or straight to the UFC.
Yeah, and the back-to-back shows, it's exciting because you have what, two title fights and then two title fights both nights, and you're able to put on exciting shows from start to finish 2 nights in a row. Now you said that's pretty stressful, but on the back end of that, right, that has to be some of the most rewarding cards you put on because of the stress and the anxiety and everything that goes into it.
Yeah, man. John, the second night of the doubleheader, it's like one of the best things in the world because even with the first night, you have other fighters weighing in, and it's like, but yeah, man, it's just, and again, we do this for our fans, and we do this for all their sacrifice because they
Mhm.
want to fight. You know how it is, John. They just want to fight during this, and we gave them an outlet, and that's the best thing that we could do is give them an outlet, and it's after a night or two after the fights to receive texts from these guys just saying thank you. Even though I lost, I was able to do this. It's just rewarding. And my best times, with Cage Fury have come nowhere near the cage. So stuff like that is really awesome.
Yeah, and it's great that you're able to put on the shows for not just the fighters but then also their fans, right? So everybody can watch for Fight Pass if they can't attend in attendance, even though you do have limited seating now at the events. So it's good for all of regional MMA to be able to still put those shows on and put them on at such a high caliber. Um, now Before I let you go, just wanted to see if there's, any fights you have in the works or anything that you're excited about, moving past these shows, because I know you got guys just texting you all the time.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I'm super excited for the future. We recently signed guys to that we've had in the past, and I'm really hopeful their future. I posted one as Earl Small.
Hmm.
Earl Small fought for us at the amateur series. Is a 3-0 guy with a ton of potential. He's going to be showing up on CFFC 94, and Andre Petrosky is another guy that you know we love. He's another guy that fought for us in the amateurs. Has been killing it in the regional scene, and we were able to sit down, talk to his management, and we got him signed. I don't want to give away too much, but
Sure.
94 and 95, that's going to be April 1st and 2nd at the 2300 arena. Working on that card now, and it's going to be sick.
Awesome, Arias. I appreciate your time. Good luck at those two cards coming up in March. Hopefully, it's not too stressful for you, but I'm looking forward to watching some of our fighters fight on your card, and then seeing what you put on in the future.
Yeah, John, I see you got the 717 shirt. You guys got to hit me up when to get some of your guys on.
Yeah, for sure. I will. This is actually my local bike shop.
Oh,
It says Hush. It's Hush Money Bikes. 717 is where they're from too. But I will hit
gotcha.
you up. We got some young amateurs that I think would be good for that next gen series too. And Miles Lee is always dropping in every once in a while. I know he's making his pro debut too. So that's what I'm real excited for.
Yep. Well,
Awesome,
great talking to
Arias.
you, John. And I love the show. I watch it all the time, and I'm finally glad to be finally a part of it.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it very much. I'll be in touch soon. Maybe I'll see you down at that card on the 11th.
Hope to see you, buddy.
All right. See you soon. Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.